to go ahead and discuss the logo design process. When you're ready to begin working on the logo, you're going to definitely want to take into consideration the various information that you've amassed about the client and about their ultimate users and clients. You're going to want to sit down and get everything together. So before we actually begin creating the logo, let's just revamp some of the items that you're going to want to make sure you have. It's helpful to list at least 3 different items that you see being used to represent the company. So perhaps a person running, outdoor activities, whatever visuals come to mind. Identify 3 strong ones. Find out if there's anything that you do not want to see in the logo. This is important to know so that you're going to make sure that you don't incorporate that into the project. Be prepared to find reference images for logos you like. It's good to keep kind of a little swap file of things that can provide inspiration and things that may be helpful in your process. Find out who the competitors are and go ahead and figure out what you think about their logos. Figure out if they're working or not. What should come to your customer's mind when they see your logo? You definitely want to give some consideration as to what the customer should be taking away when they see the logo. Describe any ideas that come to mind for your new logo. It's helpful just to jot some things down. Describe any special type of graphic or icon that is desired. Kind of some no-brainer stuff is, of course, come up with the exact name that you want to be used in your logo. You want to make sure that there's no misspelling and the exact name is certainly identified. Find the website address if that's applicable in your project. Definitely find out what's the tagline, if there is any. Specifically describe the field of business that you're going to be creating the logo for. Determine who the target clientele is. If there's any considerations or any desires up front as far as colors, make sure you're aware of those. Find out if the logo is to be text only, graphic only, or text and graphic altogether. And definitely find out if there's any preferred font style that has been identified. Once you have amassed the answers to these questions, you'll begin by actually sitting down with pencil and paper. And yes, I did say pencil and paper and not at the computer. When you begin the logo design project, a very important step is to create a mind map. Mind maps are great ways to consider many different design directions. They're super easy to create and they should serve as a stream of consciousness kind of word association process. You basically begin by writing a word that's central to the design brief, and then from there you branch out from it, writing other words that spring to mind. Your goal is to form a large thought cloud, and this is going to become the main tool for sketching. When you mind map, you can collect your thoughts, you can generate ideas, you can kind of get into a creative groove, and you can associate words with images. Many great designers start their design process by mind mapping. Ideas, thoughts, concepts, and things that are not always visible. They're kind of in a cloud and could only be imagined. The process is to get those things out of your imagination, and it's difficult in many cases to do that. Our minds are very limited for doing that. So with mind mapping, you can kind of create a plan for the ideas to basically appear and to extract them. If you see the process as a transfer about what we think, and then you're basically going to just free form and let it out on a piece of paper, and it can be a series of words, it can be images. If you feel like you need to use colors to get in touch with your creative side, go ahead and do that. They're definitely, when you're creating a mind map, your goal is to generate an idea. So think about these particular things. Everything stems from a thought. Every thought is a word. Every idea is a thought. Every word is a potential idea. Every image is a potential idea. Every thought is a potential idea. Good thoughts come when bad thoughts stop. Good thoughts come when bad ideas go. You flick your brain switch on and then you stop overthinking things. Once you still your mind, ideas will come. You need to have patience to allow time for ideas to evolve. Sometimes you'll have preconceived notions, and they only are going to breed preconceived ideas. Stressing for answers brings stressful results. Sketching your mind is effortless and it's simple. So when you are going to sit down and think about creating a mind map, you actually don't want to overthink it. You don't want to think that you can't think of anything. You just want to let the ideas come out. When you mind map, the benefits you're going to get are you're going to free your mind. You're going to bring brilliant ideas. You're going to help organize a strategic plan. You're going to help develop imagination. You can concentrate on parsing the problem, but not focus on it. You can develop thinking skills, and you certainly can increase motivation. When you use a mind map, it's going to help you consider many different design directions. It's a relatively straightforward process, as I've mentioned, and it's a super strong tool for when it comes to the next step, which is basically sketching. Once you have created your mind map, you're going to take the words that you've actually generated and you're going to identify ones that are strong. You're going to look through your mind map project and you're going to basically pull out the words that are going to help you to generate your thumbnails. And you want to create your thumbnails away from the computer. You'll have a lot more freedom and you'll be able to tap into a flow of ideas and thoughts that is a little bit more liberating. When you transfer or when you create something on the computer, it's going to require unnecessary steps that can sometimes impede your creative flow. So drawing is more creative than actually creating on the computer. I mean, just think about when you were little, you learned how to draw first, not use the computer. It's easier, it's less restricting. Think of your sketchpad as kind of a conceptual playground. It's an area where you can just put uncensored thoughts, you can just be free, you can let random concepts collide, you can make suggestions. You're going to basically go ahead and develop ideas and concepts and just kind of keep them going. When you're actually creating thumbnails, it's a good idea not to spend too much time on any one thumbnail. I would say if you're spending more than a minute or two on creating any one thumbnail, that's probably a little too long. You want it just to come out. And you don't have to be skilled. I always hear people say, I can't draw. It doesn't matter. You're just going to get the ideas out. It's about placement. It's about thinking how the text is going to interact with an icon. It's about thinking how the shape of the icon is going to work. Sometimes if you get on the computer and you want something that's cut, or you're going to have to think it's going to take you too long to execute creating the actual shape as opposed to just getting the idea out. The idea of creating the thumbnails is just to get the ideas out. Some are going to be inappropriate and aren't going to work, but then you're going to find some gems in there as well. Once you basically have created your thumbnails, then you can actually move on to the next process. And the next process is when you can start to refine some of those ideas into actual designs. Once you've actually created your sketches, you should have distilled down through the designs and come up with some strong possibilities. You always want to create your designs in a vector-based program. I tend to use Illustrator, but there's obviously other vector-based programs. Never create your logos in a raster or bitmap-based programs. They are not scalable, and they will not end up being a logo that can withhold strength over time. So always just start in Illustrator. It's always a good practice to initially design in just black and white and grayscale. Color can certainly bias a client, and it kind of sometimes it makes the client so they cannot focus on the form and the idea because there is a specific association with a color, and that kind of overwhelms the design. So it certainly is a good idea to start in black and white or grayscale. Once you've actually gone ahead and created your black and white version, then you can go ahead and add the color. And you definitely want to leave the color options for the end of the process because it's a detail that can easily be changed, and it's definitely the last thing that you want your client to be turned off on an effective mark simply because they don't like the color. So this is something that you should leave to your end process. Don't try to incorporate the colors initially. Better to work in black and white. Finally, once you've refined and created your design, then you can really kind of wow the client by showing them how the logo is going to look in context. You can put the logo on cars, and you can do this, not literally put it on a car, but do it in Photoshop. Put it on cars, signage, billboards, business cards, identity packages. The more variety you can create, the more consistent the usage becomes, and the more attractive the outcome will appear. So if you can kind of bring it through your vision of how it's going to be used, ultimately it's going to be a better selling point for your client. So in summary, what we have discussed here is mind mapping. It helps you to consider as many different design directions as possible. Even the most simplistic designs are helped by an extensive sketching process. Don't just jump right onto the computer. It's a good idea to begin by using sketchpad, pencil, paper. Even if you can't draw, make this part of your exercise process. A pen and pencil have more creative freedom than a computer mouse. Don't use the computer until your ideas are in place. And as I mentioned, don't worry if you can't draw. This is something that you don't even ever have to show to anyone else. It's just a document that's going to help you to build ideas on top of. Don't be tempted to show the client all of your sketches. These are directions. You don't want to pursue some of them, and it can be too overwhelming for the client to see too many choices. So make this something just for you. You still, even if you create thumbnails, might come up with 10 to 15 ideas that you're going to comp up on the computer. That is in many cases too many to show the client. You don't have to show them a dozen different choices. Find your best options and only present those. Make sure when you're designing to present and focus on the idea, and don't focus on easily changed aspects like color. It's best to really start in black and white or grayscale and then add the color once you're finished. This is also a great tip because a lot of times a client is going to want to use their logo in a one color format. They're going to want to use it in black and white. So if you start there, it's easier, you already have that part done. And finally, make sure your presentation looks professional to keep clients on board. Remember, you're the designer. You are going to be judged on how things look. You always want to make things look perfect, impeccable, impressive.